start the recording? Perfect. All right. So without further ado, let's begin and let's discuss what we're here to discuss today. As I mentioned, it's actually great to hear there's psychic readers in the audience and anyone, or I guess I should say in the group. I always say audience, but it doesn't feel theatrical to me. It feels more like ceremony space. So I don't know why I say that, but that's okay. So the reason that I started this kind of trance work gathering is because it is sort of an integral part of spiritual work, of spiritual connection. And as I have done my own mediumship training, and I think that that's something that we'll be discussing even further, kind of spiritual connection, kind of actual spirit connection, as opposed to full spirituality connection, which in my mind are two different things. But what I would say is spirit connection, spiritualist, in a way, working with this idea of connecting to spirits, as well as connecting to the messages of maybe spirit with a big S. And by doing that as a reader or a receiver or a seer, as I was trained, what you have to do, or what is encouraged to do before any kind of reading session, receiving session, is this work of trance. And so that's why I bring it up, and that's why I invite us to meet once a month and really hone that craft of quieting the mind and kind of allowing the thoughts to stop for a moment. Because once you can kind of allow for that, and you can let everything else kind of leave this mind space, body space, all that you really have left is kind of your inner ear, your inner third eye viewing, seeing. And that is, for some, the heart of this receiving, is that everything else leaves except spirit mind and spirit messages. And this also, this is very ancient, but I have forgotten to mention many times that this trance, I know there's also transcendental meditation, and I'm not really associated with them, though I think, I don't really have an opinion on that kind of practice, but this is associated with Edgar Cayce, who some folks may have heard of, who was kind of a very famous reader and seer. And he himself was the one who kind of popularized, in a modern sense, this idea that you would be put into a sleep-like state where you would almost be dreaming and very relaxed, very calm, but at the same time, your mind would be opening to contact with time and space and universal consciousness, and that people could ask him questions, including things as deep as, what are the secrets of the universe? And Edgar Cayce, as he saw it, would be able to respond. And, he's somewhat of a controversial figure, but this idea of going into the trance, it wasn't new. I mean, he was just someone who I think highlighted the importance of basically allowing for that state to be a part of our practice. And the reason I like to talk about trance as well is because it kind of is an amazing bridge of my ancestries, which I find nice, because I pull from my Norse ancestors who were the vulva. These were the practitioners of the Viking communities who did satyrs. Seder, which is a ritual of basically opening yourself up to seeing. And a vulva was a staff bearer, a wise woman, or a sorceress, though you could have masculine sorcerers as well, but this was usually a feminine role. Though, it was all about kind of boundary work. And so you could see folks from, I would say, every kind of spectrum of the gender spectrum in this kind of practice. But Seder specifically was about opening the mind, and in a way allowing for the ability for God consciousness to come in, to foretell the future, perhaps to perform sorcery. And this is even as popularized by characters like Eric the Red. Like, these are some of the most important sagas talk about going to see the witch, the vulva, and seeing her and receiving her knowledge as she's in the trance. And so that kind of practice is considered the way to connect to spirit. And beyond that, what I find really interesting is there first of all, there were men in this practice as well. And regardless of your gender, the idea was that you were defined as this practitioner by basically your uniform and your sort of mise en scene, your altar space, because if you were a vulva, if you had your belt, if you had your staff, and if you had your seat and your altar. So as long as you had those three things, you could kind of do that practice. So I find that very interesting. And I think the ancientness of that practice is very useful here. And of course, I know some folks were here for these, and I'm so grateful for you to have been walking this path with me. But on the other side of my ancestry, we have the Sufis, right? And the dervishes who would achieve meditation through basically a moving trance and through whirling and practice of basically connecting to the divine by moving your body until you basically are in no mind, and all you are connecting to is the movement of yourself as it connects to the movement of the universe, and all ego and all nafs, all self is abandoned. And so this is something that has been happening, is still happening in living memory, and is as well. It's a 500-year-old, more so, perhaps even, practice of remembrance through trance, remembrance of the divine. And that's mystical Islam. But it just goes to show that this practice is across so many cultures, that we have someone as modern as Edgar Cayce to, these ancient practitioners who were being written about by the ancient Romans. And then this is just one example. I'm sure many indigenous cultures were doing this. And we can sort of understand this because there's still this living memory and living practice happening in mystical schools right now in other countries. So that's why we meet for the trance. But today we're here to talk about the Egyptian cosmos and moving into trance as we connect to that Egyptian cosmos, because next month and August is going to be all about Babylon, alchemy of Babylon, trance work of Babylon, spirit communication with Babylon. And of course, for those who are interested, it is also about working with the forgotten practices of the sorcerers, exorcists, and priestesses of Babylon. So again, if you're interested, I invite you to look at my website, preciousunderwarrior.com. Sign up for the newsletter if you haven't signed up already. And if you're interested in the class, I do think it's really going to be worth your time. I offer all of my sessions for free, but this is the only one that needs to be paid because it is my ancestral wisdom. And I don't really, it's my transmission to you. So with this Egyptian work, basically what we know is that all of alchemy and all of ritual practice was constantly being communicated and expressed back and forth with the Babylonians. And many Egyptian alchemical texts were often written by Babylonians living in Egypt, or were students of Babylonians, or were Babylonian students of Egyptians. So they're so entrenched and connected. But this Egyptian instance is very important as well. And I, in fact, plan to eventually do an Egyptian-based class as well, perhaps on the Book of the Dead. That's something that might be coming later this year or in 2023. That's an opportunity to connect in that way too. So if you're curious, please do stay in touch. Let's just see here. So great. Just a second. Oh, great. I see some folks also on Facebook. Hello to all who are here. Hello, hello, hello. Great. But so when we're working with this ancient Egyptian cosmos, we're focusing in, I'm going to be talking a little bit about kind of what meditation might have looked like for them, what universe might have looked like, and what the kind of one face of the divine was. Because with polytheism, belief in multiple deities and multiple gods, I personally could spend all day talking about the many faces and understandings of God, and I find that fascinating. But today we really just want to focus on one. So the ancient Egyptian process of meditation was always based upon this harmonization with this, as something that we've talked about before in other words, but this great nothingness that is in allness, and often connecting to Amunet Amun, this harmonizing of omens from Amen, the existence of the gods through what we could observe as we work through balance of nothing and all in one. Now that's pretty big, but the idea is that the Egyptian universe was centered on Ma'at, which is a term you might be familiar with. It comes up kind of frequently. And it has several meanings in English, which could be truth or justice or order. And Ma'at as an idea was that Ma'at, the concept, is a fixed and eternal ordering to the universe, and that the universe would actually fall apart without this ordering, because there were constant threats to this order through chaos, through people and bad behavior and things like this. But everyone kind of had to live up to these sort of fixed natural order expectations. And this is something that really does come up in Babylon a lot, because exorcists as well were believers that the way to get back into healing was to come into the natural order. So what I think is amazing is in the Egyptian instance here, the natural order is actually highlighted at a societal level and a religious level. The idea that the natural order is what rules all permeates every part of human life. It permeates the rule of the dead, of the gods, of the unknown universe. Ma'at is everywhere, Ma'at is everything, and everything is in balance, echoing from the original creation at the beginning of time. And so that kind of balance is, I think, a really nice way to kind of look at how we move into our spirituality. We are kind of coming back into our sort of homeostasis, our balanced state, shedding skins and instead becoming something new, someone new. And this kind of deep conviction that the ancient Egyptians had was that natural order, balance has an underlying holiness that really, as I mentioned, connects to high universe consciousness. So it's not just human consciousness, it's at the universal level. And so this idea that we have to do good deeds is very important, and is important to this day, I would say, an attempt to respect each other, to make sure that everyone kind of has what they need, to help each other with our burdens, all of this important stuff. This is considered part of connecting to universe. And that as we are connecting to universe, as we are connecting to Ma'at and balance, it's all coming into cosmic harmony that is achieved by a ritual life, a life that is lived through ritual, that is magic, that is religious, that is all in one. It is earth-based. All things are bound together in this indestructible unity and are all parts of this wider universe. And so that is kind of what we'll be connecting to today as we move into our trance. But I also wanted to bring into the foreground, as I mentioned, one face of Ma'at. And Ma'at herself can be considered a goddess, and a sort of a feminine form to this concept. And she's actually associated with my patron as a Virgo, Thoth or Mercury. So she and Tehot, Jehudi, Thoth are often considered to be connected, as basically she is justice and he is the supreme judge. But beyond that, Ma'at is also considered primordial, And she is one of 8 primordial deities who are known as the Ogdoad. And I can write the name down if folks are interested. But these 8 primordial, these ancient ones, these really old deities, they're found in the Book of the Dead. They're found in the pyramid texts in the Old Kingdom. They're considered the very antiquated gods that some people have even in later periods had forgotten about them. But they were those first forces, male and female, of all nature, of all water, of all sky and darkness, and the visible and the invisible world. And so what is striking is that as we're talking about balance and we're talking about Ma'at, the idea is that originally the kind of first gods of this region were also considered to be balanced, that there was a supreme king and queen, a supreme balanced face, 2 beings in one kind of element, depending on who you're speaking to. But that there was balance even in the way we looked at water. There could be male water and female water. There was balance in the way we could look at the sky. There could be a mother sky and a father sky. And so that reminds us that this balance is really happening at God level as well. But as I mentioned, we'll be talking about this first god today, one of the oldest faces of ancient Egyptian religion, who is Amun and his wife Amunet. And so Amun and Amunet were basically always considered to be together. And they were the supreme deities who were actually known as the hidden one or the invisible ones. And I think that there's something to connecting to the universe as visible and visible that is really important in this universe, because as those who have come to our specifically Sufi circles know, Sufism, which is again a still alive tradition in the same region, believes that the way to connect to God is to unlock the hidden secret. And that the way to be in trance as you go through fana, an annihilation of the self, and you move into simply God consciousness, is that you are actually remembering yourself and you are learning new secrets in the universe. Secrets that the more you practice, the more these secrets become basically apparent to you. And so from these first gods in ancient Egypt, we see that the king and the queen, the supreme deities of all, are kind of the secret ones, the hidden ones. And so working with them is really like working with the secret of all universe and cosmos. And of course, some may know that Amun will later be identified with the solar god Ra. But Amun and Amunet are often also identified with fertility, with the land, with creation. And so this is something I think to remember, is that supreme deity is balanced. Supreme deity is the life-giving sun and is also the life-giving earth. And there are multiple facets, everything is fluid. There's balance. And through that balance, the spectrum falls one way and then the other. And in that kind of beauty of existence and God existence and all this consciousness is not only God, not only universe, but all of creation. And so that is what we're here today to spend a little bit of time and do a little bit of trance work and do a little bit of meditation. And thank you again so much for being a part of this space. Thank you again so much for being a part of, my journey through all of this. And excuse me, sorry. And so I am just excited now to kind of move us through this practice, hopefully helping us find a little bit of clarity, a little bit of clear mind, as well as clarity, I suppose, and maybe some joy, maybe a little bit of peace. And on top of that, to really feel like we can connect at the universe level. So if any of that feels like it's not happening for you, I would say just be the witness to whatever you are experiencing. Just be a witness to where your mind is going, and be open to the fact that you might not be clairvoyant. You know what I mean? You might not be a seer. You might be a clairaudient. You might be a listener. You might be someone who, receives message from spirit through smell or through touch, literally like feeling like a hand on your shoulder. So be open to how you receive the download, basically. And there's no wrong way to do this. Basically, just be comfortable and enjoy yourself. So again, thank you for being here. And if you'd like to stay in touch after the session, please consider doing so. I'm going to ask my production director now, please, to go ahead and play us some music. I see some hearts. Thank you for the hearts. It's really a blessing to have you. Perfect. Just a moment here. Okay. All right, so go ahead and get comfortable. If you'd like, you can lay down, or if you want, you can just sit down, close your eyes, or keep them open. Maybe if you want to keep your eyes open, I would say keep them half lidded so that you can kind of be in and out of the universe. Okay. And we'll go in and we'll do some breath work now. So when I count to 9, or when I say 9, we'll breathe in and I'll be counting. And when I say 9 again, we'll breathe out. And we'll do this a few times just to kind of all come into alignment with each other. So breathing in now, 9. Breathing out, 9. Breathing in, 9. Breathing out, 9. Nine, 9, 9. Breathing out, 9. And one more here now. As I guide us to our final breath, really invite all your breath to come in from the bottom of your feet up to the top of your head, and really fill your stomach. And as I say 9, we're going to just really do a huge release, as much as you're able to let go of. Breathing in, 9. And 9. Great work, everyone. So let's now allow our breath to return back to a more normal, kind of static flow. I'm taking a moment now to let the body melt. Allowing the soft earth that is beneath us to hold us up. We acknowledge the land that is holding us, that we may be guests upon. And we welcome in the energy of the lands of our ancestors. We are grounding down into primordial earth, full earth, old ancient earth. As we do so, we are also grounding into the mud of the Nile, that is the primordial black womb creative space, arriving like the planets just in time for our moment now of rest and of opening to the magic and trance. Let us let the legs decompress, relaxing ankles and knees. Letting the torso decompress. The stomach and the heart. Letting shoulders unburden and melt. Relaxing neck and the skin of the head, as well as the forehead and third eye space. Beneath us, the earth spins, and it is like a cradle moving back and forth, back and forth. We are held and nurtured and opened by this earth. setting aside anything we may be going through. Maybe it can not rule us just for this moment. We release daily thoughts and fears and make room instead for peace within us, for seeing mind, for knowing mind, for wise woman and wise man wisdom, wise sage mind taking over the earthly, as we are coming back into our true selves and our first selves. And let us also allow for some joy as we pause to become one. Around us, as we are getting to know this earth and getting to know ourselves and becoming more grounded, we can feel around us now a pyramid materializing and forming. So let us allow ourselves to be placed into a temple that embraces us, that is a power generator, that is this pyramid held by the warm earth. As we sit beneath the great angles of the point that points skyward, we are at center. The energy moves inwards to alchemize with us. And as witness to our sacred selves, we let go of needing to experience anything at all, feeling around us the divine forces of creation as we connect to the ancient ones, the first ones on this planet, first divine God, goddess consciousness, Amun, Amunet, the Ogdoad, the first eight, the hidden and the invisible, who hold and unlock the mysteries of this universe. And through this connection, through our third eye, through our crown, through our soul star, we are inviting in the buzz of the universe to exist in our relaxed vessel so that we may reflect in perfect balance these grand creatures and beings. And we also allow our vessels to feel beloved, to feel at peace, and to come into the sacred understanding of the cosmic love that binds us to one of these many faces of God or universe, or first ones, first knowledge keepers. As we understand that the great infinite universe and the great hidden Amun Amunet and balance are also connections to love and to connection itself. We now forget everything else, all details disappearing as we are getting closer to our hidden truths, our hidden selves, connecting to Ma'at, the concept or the goddess, or both. and perhaps even her consort Jehudi, the Hoth, the ibis-headed judge, Mercury, Hermes Trismegistus. As we only remember now that we are beings existing in the balance and the ma'at, that we are embracing all of life, all equilibrium of the universe, all cycles of the seasons, all heavenly and astral movements, all morality and honor. As beloved beings, we move into this cosmic harmony with grounding, with love, with joy, deeper and deeper we blend into this rainbow of life, this buzz of all things. And I will count down now from 10. And when I reach 0, that is your opportunity now for a few minutes of silent trance to simply receive and listen to whatever it is that you were meant to hear today with these great beings, Amun Amunet, with the great universe that is Ma'at, the great equilibrium and cycling of this universe. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. You can begin to wrap up now. I'm going to count us back up to 10. And when I reach 10, we will be out of the trance. And then I'll say a few words and then we'll say goodbye. Counting up now. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Great. The music can stop, please. I'm going to stop the recording.